All right, greetings. Welcome back to BlackBerry News, where everything is connected. That was a bit of a DJ mishap at the beginning. Just want to go ahead and get going with the show because we always seem to run out of time. So sooner I can start, the more we can get in. What's going on, people? How you doing? No, that's not yay. It's actually kind of when you find out who that is, it's kind of disgusting. Well, not just kind of. Maybe yay adjacent, I guess, in some ways. Hold on one second. I'll finish some organizing. So some new information that shows that we might be heading to 3C by 2050, which actually I would say sounds about right if you're capable of looking at a timeline and predicting where the timeline would go, assuming the timeline is going to continue rising or going at the same rate and the same elevation over time, right? So, I mean, some timelines go like this, but the climate change timeline is just going like this. So if you just follow the timeline to 2050, it looks like about 3C. But they're really doing, somersaults, backflips, engaging in pretzel making contests, trying to tell you that, somehow we're only going to be at, we might reach 2C by 2050. It's 2025 for crying out loud. All right. We'll look at this real quick. Even though my browser is doing the jump. Basically, we need to blend a smooth curve graph with a tipping point stepped graph to really see the truth to come. Yeah. You like the intro? Okay. That's good. Okay. Sound and lighting is good. That's good. 1.5C by 2075. Yeah, that's a knee slapper. You got wind of a wind event, Judy Truitt. It's happening, and there's more of that happening. I could literally just spend the entire show doing, extreme weather, showing extreme weather events around the world. I show a few of them, but there are other things to talk about. But those things are happening like all the time, and they're the consequence. Like it or not, it's the consequence of a warming world. 3C before 2050. From Ben C, a la Leon Simons. Global warming reaches 1.5C this year. Ha ha. Again, slap your knee on that, because I believe it was 2 years ago. We basically passed 1.5C, but it was, how long did they want to wait before they admitted to it? And 2C by 2037. Using a 15-year linear or 30-year nonlinear extrapolation. As global warming has accelerated, using a 30-year linear extrapolation is not the right approach to assess the state of climate. They're saying 2C by 2037. Sure. I mean, I guess that sounds about right, but I don't know. We're accelerating, and we ran very hot for over the last couple of years, over 1.5. Some people think we're at 1.75. That we're closing in on 2C really quickly. What if 2C is 2032 or 2030 or 2027? What if 2C happens, a lot sooner than the next 15 years or 12 years, I guess is what they're saying. Three C by 2050 is extremely likely, which means extinction is extremely likely. Sometime, long prior to that. Because extinction doesn't happen at 3C. Extinction happens on the way to 3C. 3C means we're functionally extinct. 3C, extinction happens at 2C. Hell, all the papers from 30 years ago said it happened at 1C. They were saying 1C was the tipping point that we must not cross. Not saying extinction happened at 1C, but that extinction might be locked in at 1C. But we start rapidly falling apart, I think, at 2C. Rapidly falling apart at 2C. So that's, dire news. Oh, K is for cool in the gang. Or, I don't know. Ketamine? Caffey? Carfy, as my friend in Oklahoma pronounces it. Doctor, get a cup of Carfy. Carfy. Anyways, that's not great. Because we're soaking in it. Ben C says 2.5 or even 3C for the first time by the end of the 2030s. Yeah, and that sounds just about right. I'd say. Salt Laker says Saudi Aramco was the world's most profitable company in 2024, recording $120 billion in profits. Sure. But they're totally lying to you about fossil fuels, bro. They're lying to you about, yeah, anyways. They're lying to you about the ingredients in your food, about the medicines they're trying to give you, about the other, 300,000 ways in which they're poisoning you every day. But fossil fuel is totally fine. Believe that at your own peril, I guess. The JFK files. There you go. Why has it got to be 3Ks though, Malcolm? Bro. It's actually my girl keeps saying she's going to paint a K right here. So that yeah. It's ridiculous. Okay. I don't know. Have the JFK files dropped yet? No. They said this afternoon, but it's 3:00 East Coast time. What the? Wow. The ADL is threatening the Irish Prime Minister. I was looking for something else. Oh, I was looking to see if the JFK files dropped. No, they ain't dropping, bro. There's no JFK files dropping, people. I don't like Kyle Kalinske very much, but he just posted a bunch of Teslas on fire at a Tesla dealership in Las Vegas. And I'm always a fan of that kind of thing, of spontaneous combustion at car selling places. But I remember years ago when Earth First claimed responsibility for setting a bunch of Hummers on fire in Pasadena, where I lived. And I was like, well, darn. Oh, darn. Let's keep going. And this is, one of the 3,000 things I could show you all day long about extreme weather events. Floods in Spain happening at Aguillas of Murcia. This is from today. You guys are funny. I'm just reading the jokes in the chats here. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep going. Ceasefire has been broken, undone, unceased, as Israel has bombed Gaza again, killing women and children again. This is only the beginning, Netanyahu warns Hamas. Warns Hamas. Oh my God. Israel would continue to fight. They're not fighting. They're just killing. Israel, let me rewrite that. Israel will continue to kill until its aims are achieved. Israel will continue to murder until its war aims are achieved. Benjamin, not you, Benjamin, not you, warned Hamas, the organization that they fund, in a televised address on Tuesday. Don't you guys be doing nothing unless we tell you to. Not you said at a military headquarters in Tel Aviv. He described Israel's renewed deadly attacks on Gaza as a return to battle, forcefully arguing that military pressure is necessary to get the remaining hostages released. Israeli military would continue fighting Hamas with increased force. He said negotiations from now on will be under fire. European nations denounce Israeli strikes on Gaza. Which is, somewhat refreshing considering they've been mostly supportive. But they're like, no, man, what's going on? Numerous European countries are saying no thank you. On Tuesday, condemned Israel's renewed war in Gaza, which killed more than 400 people in the enclave, while urging both sides to respect the ceasefire. One person is hitting another person who is standing there with their arms down, and they're saying, both of you, just stop it. Cut it out. Both of you. British Foreign Secretary said the airstrikes are appalling. Belgium's foreign minister denounced the Israeli airstrikes. Dutch prime minister spoke out against it. Malta, Finland, Switzerland, Portugal, Norway, Estonia, Poland, sorry, not Portland, Polandia, Slovenia, and Antonio Costa, president of the European Council, was shocked and saddened by the news coming from Gaza and the many civilian casualties following the airstrikes, which have nothing to do with Hamas or anything, hostages. Unbelievable. And they seem intent on ramping this up. This is hard to see. I'm not really trying to show stuff like this too much, but Max Blumenthal, new piles of murdered children in Gaza tonight. Mahmoud Khalil was kidnapped, jailed, and branded a terror simp, by the president's men for protesting for his university to divest from this killing machine. But they're going to tell you that you are the terrorist. These lunatic motherfuckers. Sorry for my language. Not that sorry. Absolute despicable, bloodthirsty, lunatic pieces of garbage. Um, and so the Irish Prime Minister and Ireland in general has been outspokenly against Israel and what they're doing. Prime Minister of Ireland comes to DC over the weekend and he's forced to meet with the ADL and the American Jewish Council, and they threaten him with serious action from the U.S. government if he doesn't do something to curb anti-Israel sentiment in Ireland. Bro, this is ridiculous. What are you going to do? Bomb Ireland? You morons. The ridiculous thing about this is that, you know, you're going to have to, like, at some point, you're going to have to take on, like, the entire citizenry of the United States, because nobody supports this. It's not just students. It's not, it's, voters from both sides of the aisle. It's everybody. Everybody sees that this is some bullshit game. The only people that support this are the people in the government who are compromised by Israel, and then so the high placed supporters that are in corporate seats of power. But as far as the masses, the proletariat, no, nobody supports this shit. So the thing is that you're going to create an absolutely revolutionary fervor, not just in the rest of the world, but in your own country. And you're gonna create a situation where people want to stomp you out. You lunatic, raging lunatic. I don't know. As you can tell, I'm pissed. But these people are despicable. I don't know what else I can say about them. Gaslighting demons that no religion, no morality, no God. And you're going to create a situation where people are just going to, people are going to resist this and rebel against this. And I just don't see how you can keep going. I don't see how you can keep going. Because nobody supports this, and you're trying to ramp up something, ramp it up into a war with Iran. And I can tell you right now, nobody's going to support. Nobody wants to go. No kids want to go. No parents will let their kids go. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to do this except for you. And so what's the end game here? Not all? What do you mean, Caleb? Who? The very small percentage of lunatic Jews that exist out there, or lunatic Zionists, whatever you want to call them. I mean, not all Jews support this. Jews don't support this, right? Zionists support this. But if you're a lunatic, if you're one of the small lunatic class that supports it, and you are a lunatic, you are an absolute amoral piece of garbage lunatic if you support this. If you're still trying to do gymnastics in your head to try to tell people why this is real, you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna no. Sorry, you're creating enemies, man. You're creating I'm livid with anger over this, and you're creating a group of people that's bigger than you that are going to be livid with anger over this, and you're gonna just you're just going to create something that's bad for you. It's called blowback. It's called unintended consequences. Unintended consequences will be the undoing of you. Anyways, and I just, that's the thing, is when you're so just unconscious to what you're creating, when you're so hell-bent on doing, whatever it is that you think you're going to do, and you do it to a point where you start getting some blowback or some pushback, you're creating something that's not going to be good for you. And people, nobody ever understands this. Human beings are very slow on the uptake of this kind of thing, that when you do something that harms people in your life, or, just on a personal or a communal level, you harm yourself. That's just how it is. It's just how it goes. It's just kind of like, whatever you want to call it, karma, something. Yeah, and so let's listen to this. Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
Has made it clear Hamas, the Houthis, Iran. Well, the Trump administration and the White House were consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza tonight. And as President Trump has made it clear, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America, will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose. And all of the terrorists in the Middle East, again, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iranian-backed terror proxies, and Iran themselves should take President Trump very seriously when he says he is not afraid to stand for law-abiding people. He is not afraid to stand up for the United States of America.
Are you serious? I mean, so we created all these, we created and funded a lot of these terrorist organizations in order to create situations where we have to go in, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever, you can go down the list. Hamas, you can even include Hamas in there. We created this. We created these we created this excuse to go try and ramp up like a war there. And and a lot of people see through this. So everybody sees this. So I'm just, putting it out there. We all see this. You're not fooling anybody. You're not, trying to blame it on, we're going to go after these terrorists that we all created and funded in order to make a war that nobody wants to go fight. Do you understand the ridiculousness of this? It's just, they don't understand. They just don't understand. They just don't see like how it's going to play out for them. I don't think they understand how it's going to play out. Anyways. And this should piss you off too. They're talking about, this is a 60-minute. Oh, are they going to do this? Is for fair use for educational purposes only. Fair use under copyright law for educational purposes only. Okay. This is not a copyright infringement. This is only 38 seconds. I can't get over the fact they aired this on 60 Minutes back in December, and then you see all the chaos going on around the world, and no one brings us up. Let's listen. They're talking about the pagers.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they
He's just telling you point blank, we are the actors. The world is a stage. We make the whole show. So why is anybody taking this seriously? You shouldn't. You should not take this serious. I mean, you should take it seriously as in the people are really being murdered for this show. But, as far as the story is, you should not take it seriously. The story is, when we all know the story is concocted, created, fabricated. Again, people were talking about the Eric Prince phone, the unplugged phone. It's supposed to be a privacy phone, which a lot of people are saying, calling attention to the idea, Eric Prince. And this phone is, I guess, manufactured in Israel. I don't know why you'd want to buy this phone, because who knows what's what's in the phone. We control the vertical and the horizontal, yeah. Anyways, I get so mad about this stuff. And if you're not mad, I guess might be an issue. There are deep financial cracks showing. And then Trump goes and does this. The government will no longer require shell companies he was talking about shell company on shell company on shell company. That guy in the 60 Minutes thing. Government will no longer require shell companies to disclose their owners and beneficiaries, allowing wealthy corporations and individuals to hide their profits from the public. I kind of thought that was already the case. They just made it even more the case. Donald Trump is excited about one of the Treasury Department's most sinister moves yet. Excuse me. The move is to ignore a law that targeted money laundering. It would stop enforcing, the Treasury Department will stop enforcing any penalties or fines associated with the beneficial ownership information reporting rule under the existing regulatory deadlines, but meanwhile, Venmo and PayPal and CashApp and other, and your bank, have to, will report every little, every dollar you make. It will further not enforce any penalties or fines against U.S. citizens or domestic. Oh, okay. Domestic reporting companies or their beneficial owners after the forthcoming rule changes take effect. Does this help small businesses? Let's see. Because I just read here that it doesn't require some businesses to report information on people who own or control a company. Will not enforce penalties or fines against U.S. citizens or domestic reporting companies. He's saying it will help small businesses. The Biden rule has been an absolute disaster for small businesses nationwide. Furthermore, the Treasury is now finalizing an emergency regulation to formally suspend this rule for American businesses. The CTA was passed by the Biden administration to tackle tax evasion and corporate cronyism, which unsurprisingly is at odds with the Trump administration. Trump has gone after financial regulation as well as government agencies that seek to curb corporate power, such as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a horrible thing, by the way. So he's selling this as this is good for small businesses. We'll see. Trump canceled the BOI. Say what? Let's see. You bought a power cube in Manhattan? It started going through your apps. What is a power cube? I don't know what that is. Eric Prince is a shitty guitar player. Okay. What is a power cube? I don't know what it is. It's not a Freedom phone. It's called Unplugged. The unplugged phone. Let's see. A USB wall charger. It goes through your apps. Are you serious? Huh. What I also heard is that iPhone is going to change some way in which they look through pictures in the right. So if you upload your pictures to the cloud, they can, they have, people have access to things on the cloud, and they can look through your iCloud photos to find, pictures that might implicate you in doing something illegal. And they're selling it as, a way, they don't want people having, right, stuff that involves like children on their, which is, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's correct. It's funny because I just saw a TV show. I was just watching a TV show that was dealing with that. And it was kind of strange. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was a show. It was about a woman who was married to a guy, and the guy was very nice and a great guy. And he was like the best guy ever. And he was like just the best guy ever. And then she's like, and apparently had found pictures involving children on his iCloud photos, but it was a really strange setup to that whole scenario because he was, they just painted this guy as like the best guy ever. And she was like, well, and I was having a conversation with him on the phone and he sounded a little strange, a little off. And so I decided to just right away go to his iCloud and look for hidden pictures. I was like, how does that make any sense? Really? You left out, there's no context for this. you know, he's the best guy ever. And then you had a weird conversation with him. And then 2 minutes later, you were finding weird pictures on his iCloud account. Like how does that make any sense? But it was weird, you know, it was weird because I just read this article about Apple having access, not just to your iCloud photos, but the photos on your phone. So basically, if you have iCloud permissions turned on, they look at all the pictures currently on your phone as things that might be uploaded to the cloud. So they can actually go through your phone too. Just saying. I mean, and that was from an Eric Snowden article on Substack. And there's a way to turn that off. Like Melinda Gates, exactly. Creative experiments, exactly. Anyways, yeah, that show was really weird because I just was like, how this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. He suddenly went from being the best guy ever to being, you know, he was a little bit depressed during COVID. And then I decided to look through his iCloud account. Sure. Can you make it not make any more sense? Whatever. I feel like there should have been some other things, other clues in there that made her go, I'm going to look through his iCloud account. You know, just make it make sense. All right. I mean, apparently he was doing horrific things. So, you know, glad he got caught. There was a new article out from Financial Times about lack of brain power and cognition, mainly due to our reliance on, so as digital hardware and our interaction with the digital world and the internet and social media, as that has increased, our brain function has decreased. There's a direct lineage to that. Duh. Okay, warning heated. I'm gonna put this on the screen, Malcolm. Where are you? Where'd it go? There you go. It says, buy the silver now, buy the silver now, buy the silver now. Hold on, I'm going to look at the AOD. Says there is a house near me that is owned by a letterbox company. They tried to evict the occupants, but could not because no owner came forward. Just a 2-bit shitty lawyer and his thugs. Oh. Silver. Arr. Hands off me silver. I'm in need of all the silver. Arr. Sorry. Anyway, so people are getting dumber. It's just, I don't know. I feel dumber today than I did I don't know. I'm kidding. Reporter digs into how digital media is crushing people's capacity to process information. Financial Times chief data reporter John Byrne Murdoch took a deep dive into Friday into recent studies that point to the global population's declining ability to focus and process information in a column titled "Have Humans Passed Peak Brain Power?" He dropped a lengthy thread on X. Oh, why didn't I see that? That's what I need to see. For crying out loud. Showing declining scores among adults and teenagers in OECD countries in both literacy and numeracy proficiency. Recent results from major international tests show that average person's capacity to process information, use reasoning, and solve novel problems have been falling since around the mid-2010s. What should we make of this? Nobody would argue that the fundamental biology of the human brain has changed in that time span. People's underlying intellectual capacity is surely undimmed, but there is growing evidence that the extent to which people can practically apply that capacity has been diminishing. There's remarkably little long-term data on attention spans, focus, etc. But one source that has consistently tracked this is the Monitoring the Future survey, which finds a steep rise in the percent of people struggling to concentrate or learn new things. One argument that this is the downstream of the decline in reading. As people's information diet shifts from longer and more complex texts to short snippets and from text to video, people's effective literacy levels decline. True. That dynamic is almost certainly part of what we're seeing here, but it's notable that we don't just see declines in literacy, but numeracy and other forms of problem solving too. It suggests a broader erosion in people's capacity for mental focus and application. Some of the statistics here are eye-opening. Share of adults in high-income countries who are unable to use mathematical reasoning when evaluating simple statements, or who struggle to integrate multiple bits of information from a piece of text, has climbed to 25%. Most discussions about societal impacts of digital media focuses on the rise of smartphones and social media, but I think that's simultaneously an incomplete explanation, and one that lumps together benign positive use of digital technologies with more problematic. And yeah.
Cats in there?
Chongo is in here.
Okay. Well, the door was open, like wide open.
Oh,
It was
really?
actually open. Yeah.
The front door?
It might have been Malachi. Can I take this charger as well?
Yeah.
So I left the back door open.
Okay.
So.
All right. Sleep tight, AOD. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that are, I mean, I'd say this is, something to be aware of. I feel like it's a double-edged sword, because I actually do see, our ability to put information together and communicate and discover and or uncover a lot of societal wide issues, through technology and the internet, social media, and also our ability to I see a lot of people learning quite a lot from their interaction with social media or whatever. There's just a wealth of information. And so I think communally that's a rise in, species wide, cognition and or ability. And I think there's an evolutionary impact in that, and for the better, not for the worse, for the better. But yeah, there's a lot of, I also really struggle, and I hear people around me struggle a lot with attention and focus, because you really have to work very hard to keep from being just absolutely pummeled with information all the time. And I have a difficult time with that. I also have a difficult time with, just, multitasking. I want to multitask way too much. I want to do and take in too many things. So it's hard for me to just chop off everything and just focus on. I find that if I just close out everything on my phone and turn my phone off and not listen to anything, on my phone, and just basically turn it off, or just, use it for specific things, notes, looking at or reading notes, that I get way more done. I'm way more productive. But it's just so easy to fall into the black hole of, Let me look at this. Let me look at this. Let me look at this. Let me look at it. The black hole of things just coming at you all the time. So, and that's kind of what they indicate. In the study is that specific user-driven activities, focused user-driven, applications of the technology can be, quite useful, but it's when you get distracted. And we all know that. It's when you get distracted, things just start going haywire, and it's just way too easy to be distracted. And I'm constantly kind of looking for ways to lower the level of distraction from all of this, as I'm using it as a tool to greatly enhance my productivity and everything around me, right? Like I'm on my computer or my phone almost all day, but I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing things, and I'm doing things that trying to use it in a positive way, in a constructive way, but it's very, very easy to have that, fall into distracting. You multi-fail. Yes. Problem with multitasking, right? Is it better to do one thing well or do many things not so well? Well, I think that's a way to do it, Malcolm, is to use the internet and AI or whatever it is you're using to hunt specific knowledge and talk about specific social issues, ignore everything else. Yeah. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do too. I mean, I really am trying to just apply the technology to the things that I really want to generate and not have it generate things in me. I want to generate things in it or with it. But there's more. I find that there's more to ignore. And if you like that rhyme, follow me here at Black Bear News, where I got a million of them. There's more to ignore. All right. If you like this show, if you like the show coming to you for free 99 Monday through Friday, if you like the information and the conversation that you get here and you want to keep seeing the show coming to you, because it does take time, effort, energy, that I might otherwise be forced to spend my energy, effort, and time on in order to stay alive. But if you like this show and you want to keep the show going, a really good way to do that is to support the show at one of the links in the description box, and all the usual links are there. YouTube, I mean, not YouTube, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. See how distracted I am. Buy me a coffee, Ko-Fi, Patreon, Substack, etc. Oh, I didn't put the Substack link in. I will. Fridays are Substack only Fridays, right? So just if you're not already aware, this Friday and until further notice, all following Fridays will be live streaming on Substack only. So please go over to my Substack, and that's Black Bear News. Go subscribe. It's free to subscribe, free to watch the show. It's open. I'm opening the show to everyone. So there's no paywalls or anything there. Just come over. I'm just trying to get everybody over to a new thing. Go check out the Telegram channel. It's t.me/BlackBearNewsChat. It's a good place to share information and discussions specific to this channel. You don't get a lot of cross chatter like you do on X, right? And it's more of a closed ecosystem, Black Bear News ecosystem on Telegram, as opposed to me on X and getting inundated with everything that you get inundated with on X. I know X can be exciting, and I spend a lot of time there. But we could have more focused discussions on Telegram, like between us all. So go over there and do that if you're of the mind A lot of you already support the show and have supported the show over the years and over the months and the days and the weeks. You know who you are. I appreciate you. Let's see. And we'll kind of wind up or wind down with look at the financial situation that's going on. And it's pretty bad. Not for everyone, but it's getting a little crazy out there for a lot of people. Horrific capitalist dystopia. She makes $72K a year, but lives in a Ford Fusion. She can't afford rent in Seattle. More Americans turn to living in their cars. Dozens of parking lots have opened across the country for working people who can afford a car but not rent. Man, that is everywhere. I'm telling you, the RV population of Los Angeles is huge. Saw another post by a woman who, works a job, young, smart, works a pretty good job, decent job, can't afford rent, living in her car. A naked music OnlyFans, where people pay me to not be naked? Is that what? Yeah. But this is becoming more and more of a reality. It's just, rent is just insane. And I hear this is something else I hear people talking about, especially in LA, like all the time, how crazy rent is, how insane it is, how, and on top of that, the requirements for renting a place are just get more and more stringent. And, fewer and fewer people, even if they can afford the rent, can't afford the can't live up to the requirements it would take to rent a space. And it is prohibitive to a lot of people. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this. Is this the same story? Hold on. Let's see if I can find. Is this it? This is it. Crystal Audette tried to get comfortable in what she called her bedroom, the backseat of her 8-year-old Ford Fusion. To stretch her legs, she had to leave a passenger door ajar. But September nights are raw in the Pacific Northwest with sheets of rain that cut to the bone. From her own bedroom in the front seat, her 26-year-old daughter, Sierra Audette, asked her to close it. Audette she's 49 years old, earns $72,000 a year as a social worker for the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services. But a combination of bad luck, bad debt, and bad credit score priced her out of her apartment in Bellevue, another suburb of Seattle, one of the most expensive housing markets in the country. With an eviction looming, she put her furniture in storage this spring and began parking the sedan in a parking lot outside of a church in Kirkland. The car, her biggest investment, became her home, and a weathered stretch of blacktop provided by a Methodist church became her yard, her neighborhood, and her safe place. Around the country, real estate is being set aside for people like Audette in the form of parking lots. Dozens of such lots have opened in the past 5 years, including as far east as Pennsylvania and North Carolina. They are sprinkled across the Midwest in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Duluth. And they dot the spine of the Pacific Northwest, providing a safe harbor for a growing cohort of working Americans who are wedged in an unforgiving middle. They earn too little to afford rent, but too much to receive government assistance, and have turned their cars into a form of affordable housing. The Lake Washington United Methodist Church began experimenting with offering a beachhead for the mobile homeless in 2011 in response to Seattle's scofflaw ordinance, which called for the impounding of cars that had accrued multiple parking tickets, a law that was disastrous for people forced to live in their cars. Our simple idea was, hey, if they're in our parking lot, they won't get parking tickets and they won't get booted and towed. Now it is one of 12 in Washington state. In 2001, Audette posted a bad check and went to court and ended up on her record, one of several setbacks that have damaged her credit. Her free fall into unsustainable debt began last September when her car died. With poor credit, the only loan she could find came at a punishing cost. For a Ford Fusion with over 100,000 miles, she is being charged interest of 27.99. I mean, that's almost 30%, equaling a payment of $398 per month, 1/10 of her take-home pay. Medical bills in the thousands arrived for her Crohn's disease. She missed 2 rent payments, and then the landlord raised her rent $248 a month. It was a case of one bill too many. During the spiral that led to her homelessness were a series of forks, choices between bad and very bad that she made, many in moments of desperation. She spent a week at a hotel. Expedia offered to break up her payments, which she is now paying off at the rate of $138 a month. To avoid her unpaid rent going to collections, she signed an installment plan agreeing to pay $495 a month. Yep, this happens quick. It happens quick. By midsummer, Audette's take-home pay of nearly $4,300 a month, which is pretty substantial, was hollowed out by bills totaling nearly $2,600, leaving her with too little to pay for an apartment in a market where the median rent is $2,200. She finally found the parking lot after seeing a news story about parking programs for homeless people. Let's see. She finally got approved for an apartment, it looks like, so that's good. Your house burned down? Denver, I'm sorry. You used to have a marble bathroom? Sorry, man. Yeah, I know what that feels like. Unfortunately. And I don't, here's another post I saw, and I don't know if this is the result of feminism. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. It is true that trying to get women into the workforce has just made it easier for people to expect to have 2-income households instead of one. Back in the day, the idea was that one income made by the head of the family. I'm going to presume that's a man, but your choices may end up with a different head of the household or whatever, but one income could provide, for everyone, for the family. Back when there was, social programs and whatnot, and also unions, and also, people thought that, well, this made sense. That if you worked a 40-hour week, that you should take home enough money to pay your bills, right? And not have to have everybody in the house work too. What if I told you that a single income once provided for a home, a car, and a comfortable life for an entire family? One shift in the economy made sure that would never happen again. But they're trying to blame it on feminism, and I feel like that's not the one shift. That's a little off the mark. Sure, it helps. I feel like the shift is more about making people work harder for less, right? There's several shifts. You can't distill it down to one shift. That's a little ridiculous. But they're trying to blame it on feminism, which is I feel like it's a little bit silly, because why not? Why can't a woman, earn enough to provide for a whole family? Why, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think that should be great. Right. What, I don't know. People want to say it's the welfare, broke up the family, especially the black family. Feminism is breaking up, I don't know. I do think that quite a lot of people these days embrace the idea, the nuclear family, kind of everybody playing their part. I think it seems to be a natural order of things, but I know that's very conservative sounding of me, but I kind of think that's how it goes, right? That's why you have two parents. You have a woman and a man, or whatever it is that however your arrangement is, but you have two parents, and they do different things, right? They have different strengths, right? Dads have different strengths than moms. Moms do things like this and dads do things like this, but you put those superpowers together and you create like a unit, right? It's, I know a lot of women out there don't want to be the mom and the dad. They just want to be the mom. And if you apply that to the dads don't want to be the mom and the dad. They just want to be the dad. And they, people play their roles and do their part. And then as a unit move together, things work. And yeah. Anyways. But it's a lot more than feminism. I feel like this is a little bit, I can take or leave this idea that it's feminism. But they have taken advantage of the idea of feminism in order to create a situation where, most people have two incomes, and then those two incomes barely cover the mortgage, when it should have been one income that covered the mortgage. And the other income should have been extra money, or getting rich money, or putting in the bank money, or going on vacation money. But now it's two incomes barely cover the mortgage money, which a lot of people find themselves in that situation, which is not okay. But this is an interesting thread, nonetheless. In the 1960s, a factory worker or a small business owner could afford a house, raise a family, and retire comfortably, all on one income. Today, two full-time salaries barely cover the rent. What changed? Feminism was pushed as a movement of empowerment, but who really benefited when women flooded the workforce? Corporations gained double the labor supply, wages stagnated, and the market became saturated with workers. Taxes doubled because the government now had two incomes to tax. What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree feminism has allowed corporations to take advantage of this? Before the 1970s, businesses had to pay men enough to support a family. That's true. Once women entered the workforce, the market became flooded with workers and wages stagnated. But what about a single mom? What about a woman who's just trying to make a living on her own? I mean, it's that kind of. Instead of one paycheck being enough, families now needed to just keep up with the rising costs. What was sold as a choice was really a necessity as the middle class became financially dependent on dual incomes. The result, a shift from financial independence to a system where families were stuck in the grind to survive rather than thrive. In the 1970s, a home cost 2 to 3 times the average yearly income. By the 2000s, that price had skyrocketed to 7 to 10 times the average income. Banks, investors, and landlords adjusted prices to accommodate the rise of dual income households. But they're trying to make this happen on all kinds of levels, right? There's, they don't raise the minimum wage. Yes, everything, cost of everything is going through the roof, but the compensation for people doing the work or trying to afford these costs does not rise adequately enough. So it's more on the organization of labor and the compensation of labor more than anything else. I'd say. Creative Experiment says male manhood drove wages down. Men should have to just let women keep building ships after World War II and stay home. Okay. With both parents working, someone had to raise the children, enter daycare, public schools, and media. I mean, and this is also real. Like I'm a fan of kids not having to spend time in daycare. I'm a fan of kids not having to, having ample and adequate time with their parents. Children are no longer raised by their families, but by institutions and strangers. The system shaped young minds, grooming them to accept the new reality and lose connection with family values. The result, a generation of kids raised by the state with family stability eroded and parental influence fading. To keep people distracted, they were sold an illusion of happiness through consumerism. Credit cards, loans, vacations were marketed as the key to fulfillment. Instead of families building generational wealth, they were pushed into debt, working harder than ever to sustain an image of success. While banks and corporations profited, families found themselves trapped in a perpetual rat race, endlessly chasing a dream they could never fully reach. Again, it ain't just feminism. It's many, many things. Many things have led to this state of affairs. It's a multi-pronged attack on people in general. You blame propaganda, Gene? Yeah, I'm with you on that. Joseph Wood, pre-1940, most families worked together. Yeah. Anyways, we'll read the last one. Who really won? Corporations gained double the workforce without raising wages. Banks created a nation of lifelong debt slaves. The government doubled its tax revenue overnight. Investors and landlords made home ownership out of reach for most. And the average person overworked, underpaid, and robbed of the comfortable life their grandparents had. That is not all due to feminism, bro. That is due to some all kinds of things, but not feminism. Not distinctly feminism. Sure, you could say the erosion of the nuclear family, or how things kind of worked, should work, but I don't think that people need to live up to these standards and norms, and there are all kinds of ways that people organize themselves and their families in order to thrive and succeed. I don't know that the nuclear family is the only way, but it certainly is one that works for a lot of people, or people, would prefer. I got anything else? Oh, I'll play this on the way out. And again, this is fair use under copyright law for educational purposes only. This is not copyright infringement, but fair use. Thank you. And I will see if I got any donations while y'all watch this.
Every time a new baby is born, the Federal Reserve issues a secret birth certificate printed by a company called the American Bank. That way, the government can use people as currency to back the debt they have with the World Economic Forum, which owns the central banks of every nation on Earth. But the WEF is just a front for the Council on Foreign Relations, which masterminded the 9/11 attacks as a pretext to invade Iraq, take the oil, and install fast food chains to make people slow, fat, and easily abductable by the shape-shifting reptilian aliens it works with. Now, back in the 30s, FDR made a deal with these reptilians to exchange people for technology. That was the basis of the New Deal. But ever since, they've been slowly replacing all the world leaders to create a nuclear holocaust to make global warming real for their takeover. That's how they made up the Cold War, by sending Leica to space to bite Neil Armstrong while Kubrick was faking the moon landing. Now they're using satellite waves, contrails, and measles vaccines as mind control and fluoridating the water to keep people's gold fillings intact so they can be sent back to, you guessed it, the Federal Reserve, where all the gold and birth certificates are stored by the real puppet master, the world monarch, who is himself only the servant of the all-seeing eye who controls everything in the world.
I was wrong.
Okay. That was on a TV show that aired, and then that didn't air any longer after that. But that's one way to look at it. Oh no, my buttons froze. No, not the button freezing. Not the button freezing. Hold on. Okay. That part is back. A nuclear family would be rad. Yes. I get it. Let's see. Well, my buttons still are not working. Are my buttons working? All right, guys. Thanks so much. I don't think I had any donations today. I can't see them. If I did, I didn't see them. But thank you all for hanging out, and thanks for being here. See if I can get out of here. Peace. I don't know if I can.